In the heart of the Dales, grief is a storm that never passes quietly. It rips through families, dredges up the past, and leaves a trail of wreckage that can change the landscape forever. Right now, that storm has a name, Nate Robinson, and at its epicenter stands his father, Cain Dingle. A man already wrestling with a lifetime of demons, now forced to confront the most gut-wrenching tragedy of all, the death of a son he was only just beginning to know. But in Emmerdale, when is grief ever simple? When is it ever just about mourning? The air in the village is thick not just with sorrow, but with suspicion, accusation, and a bitterness so profound it could curdle milk. And tonight, that bitterness walked right through the doors of the Woolpack in the form of Cara Robinson, Nate's mother, a woman carrying the unbearable weight of a mother's loss and looking for someone to blame. Let's set the scene because it's a picture of Dingle family tragedy at its most raw and complicated. Nate is gone, his life cut brutally short, and the police are still sniffing around, their eyes lingering far too long on Cain. For Nate's grieving ex-wife Tracy, this suspicion is enough. She's drawn a line in the sand, a hard, uncrossable boundary. Cain Dingle, and by extension his entire chaotic clan, are banned from the official funeral. Can you imagine the sting of that? To be told you cannot formally say goodbye to your own son, your own blood? It's a cruel blow, leaving the Dingles with only one option, to do what they do best. They retreat to their fortress, the hallowed halls of the Woolpack, to hold their own memorial, a makeshift farewell for a man they all, in their own dysfunctional ways, cared for. As the episode opened, the atmosphere inside was as bleak and dreary as a Yorkshire winter sky. A few loyal family members dotted the tables, the turnout painfully sparse. The silence was heavy, punctuated only by the clink of a glass or a stifled sigh. At the heart of it all sat Cain, a statue of tormented regret. His shoulders were slumped, the usual fire in his eyes reduced to embers of pain. This wasn't the hard man of the Dales. This was a broken father, lost in a sea of what-ifs and if-onlys. The weight of his final, violent confrontation with Nate, a brutal beating on the very day he died, was crushing him. Seeing his brother drowning in misery, Caleb stepped in. With the classic Dingle philosophy that you either sink in sorrow or swim in defiance, he encouraged Cain to change the tune, literally. This isn't Nate, a quiet, moping affair. Let's toast the man we knew, the one with the spark, the fight. And so, the somber music was replaced with something more lively. The whiskey began to flow more freely. A toast was raised, then another. Slowly, painfully, the mood began to lift, transforming from a wake into a celebration of a life lived, however short. They were trying to honor him in their own loud, imperfect ways. And that's when the pub doors swung open. Cara Robinson stood silhouetted in the doorway, her face a mask of thunderous disbelief. The laughter died in their throats. The music suddenly sounded jarring and disrespectful. Every eye turned to the woman who had traveled to bury her only child, only to walk into what looked like a party. "Having a good knees up, are we?" she spat, her voice dripping with venom that cut through the entire room. The air crackled with tension. "And here's me thinking it would be a somber affair, seeing as we're burying my son tomorrow." Her words hit them like a physical blow. She revealed she'd arrived a day early for the funeral, wanting to prepare, only to be met with the shocking news that the Dingles were holding a rival memorial. To her, this wasn't an act of love born from exclusion. It was a slap in the face. It was a desecration of her son's memory. She found Cain, and all her pain, all her rage, funneled into one blistering confrontation. She closed the distance between them, her eyes blazing with a righteous fury that only a grieving mother can possess. She silkened the doorway, her face a mask of thunderous disbelief. I know what you did. I know exactly what you did to Nate the last time anyone saw him. The police told me." The pub was silent. You could hear a pin drop. She was talking about the fight, the final, ugly chapter in their turbulent father-son story. To Kara, this wasn't just a tragic coincidence, it was the final proof of Cain's character. "You're a violent thug, Cain Dingle. That's all you've ever been." With a final, soul-destroying curse upon the day Nate ever came looking for his father, she turned on her heel and stormed out, leaving a shattered Cain and a stunned pub in her wake. Her destination was Vanessa's house, a sanctuary where she could find solace with Tracy. The two women, united in their loss, were preparing for the unbearable day ahead. But another piece of the puzzle was about to fall into place. Earlier that day, a letter had arrived for Tracy, a cold official document informing her that she was the beneficiary of a significant life insurance payout from Nate's death. In the midst of her grief, it was just another piece of painful bureaucracy, a grim financial reality in the face of emotional devastation. But nothing in Emmerdale stays secret for long. Sam Dingle, ever the loyal soldier, couldn't let Kara's words stand. He followed her to Vanessa's house, determined to make her see that Cain, for all his faults, was not a killer. He pleaded his brother's case, his heart on his sleeve. But during their tense conversation, he overheard the mention of Tracy's payout. And in Sam's mind, a terrible new possibility took root. He raced back to the Woolpack, his mind reeling. He found Cain stewing in the aftermath of Kara's attack and delivered the news. Tracy has money troubles. Nate had a life insurance policy. Tracy is getting a huge payout. The pieces clicked together in the most horrifying way. For a man already consumed by guilt and grief, this information was like throwing gasoline on a fire. The last vestiges of reason burned away. Cain saw red. In an explosion of raw, misdirected fury, he stormed over to Vanessa's house. He didn't knock, he burst in, a hurricane of accusation. The three women, Kara, Tracy, and Vanessa, stared at him, shocked. Before they could even speak, he unleashed his poison, his eyes locked on a bewildered Tracy. He accused her of orchestrating the ultimate betrayal, of killing her own husband for the life insurance money to solve her financial problems. The accusation hung in the air, toxic and unbelievable. It was a desperate, cruel lashing out from a man so broken he needed someone else to carry the blame. He had twisted a tragic reality into a monstrous motive, turning his pain outwards and aiming it at the one person who shared his loss. As Kara and Vanessa looked on in horror and Tracy's face crumpled in disbelief and hurt, Cain delivered his final, defiant blow. He wasn't asking for permission anymore. He was making a statement. "While I'm coming to the funeral," he snarled, his voice raw with a pain he could only express as anger. "We're all coming, whether you like it or not." The battle lines have been drawn. A funeral, meant to be a time of peace and remembrance, is now set to become a war zone. With a grieving mother convinced he's a thug and a grieving father convinced his son's widow is a murderer, the day they lay Nate Robinson to rest promises to be anything but peaceful. It's a tragedy layered on top of a mystery, wrapped in the explosive, heartbreaking drama that only the Dingles can deliver.